Alright guys, since we just started working on the accusative case, I want to make sure to review it with you in order to ensure that everything is clear as far as direct objects and the use of the accusative case in general is concerned. So you might remember we talked about this in class. You have two separate kinds of verbs, both in English and in Latin. You have those which are transitive, right? And then you have those which are intransitive. Now, a transitive verb is going to take a direct object, right? So you could have Marcus hits Julia, Marcus Juliam pulsat, or in English you can come up with a lot of other examples. You could say the boy sees the girl, the boy buys roses. You could say the girl loves the boy. Notice in all of those cases you have a subject, which is the subject of a verb, and that verb acts or performs some action upon something, as for example, Marcus hits Julia. Julia receives the verbal action. She's the direct object. Intransitive verbs are just those that don't take a direct object. So you can say something like Julia is singing. Notice that there's no object which receives the action of singing, right? Julia is just performing the singing. This would be different if you said Julia is singing a song. In that case, the verb would become transitive, and then you'd have a direct object in the form of song. The key point is that anytime that you have a direct object in Latin, you're going to need to use the accusative case, all right? So make sure to watch out for that. If you take a look at page 307 of your book that I gave you, you'll note that there are declension tables, and if you take a look, the accusative case is listed as the second of the cases, even though we learned the genitive case before it. All right, so you have your accusative case. If you look at the accusative singulars, you'll note that they all have something in common, and that is the ending in the accusative singular of M. All right, so notice horam, servum, librum, verbum. All right, all those accusative singulars end in M, and for masculine and feminine nouns, at any rate, that's true for all declensions. You're only learning so far the first and second declensions. But that's going to be true in general for all declensions later on. All right, and then you'll note that in the masculine and feminine ones, at any rate, you have as, os. And then don't get tripped up about the pattern getting broken with a neuter. In any event, we're only working with the singulars right now, so make sure just to pay attention to those as you encounter them. And note also that you've learned a substantial amount of the case system already. So let's take a look at some examples. If you look in your book, you have these example sentences. Quintus Marcum pulsat, right? Note that Quintus here is your subject, and this is indicated by the fact that he's in the nominative case. Remember, the nominative case is the basic form of the noun, but at the same time, the nominative case is always used for your subject. You'll never have the nominative case used for anything other than being the subject, right? So as soon as you see that something is in the nominative case, you know that it is referring to the subject, or it's something being attributed to the subject, right? So Quintus, he's going to be the one performing the action, or the one about whom the sentence is. So you have Quintus Marcum pulsat, right? Here's your main verb, pulsat, he hits. This is made rather clear by the expert drawing there. Quintus Marcum pulsat, note right there, you have the accusative case. You could not say Quintus Marcus pulsat. Impossible in Latin. It wouldn't make any sense. You would effectively get something that would sound as it would in English, like Quintus Marcus hits. All right, it's not going to do any good. A Roman would not have understood you if you said that. If, however, you said Marcum pulsat Quintus, they would understand you perfectly fine. Even though the word order has been reversed, note that you'd still have Marcum and then Quintus in the right cases. So take another look at this. Quintus, note, it's your nominative, so you're going to have the subject is Quintus. Marcum videt, right? So already, as you're reading this from left to right, you'll note that you already identify your subject, then you run into Marcum, you'll understand that Marcum is going to have some sort of action performed upon him, and then you'll see videt, you understand that Quintus sees Marcus. Marcus non videt Quintum. All right, so note now that Marcus's name has reverted back to its original nominative form. You can see that he's going to have to be the subject here, right? And then you have Quintum in the accusative case. So You can see how Quintus's name has changed. You can also see how Marcus's name has changed. Even though their places in these sentences have changed, that's pretty much irrelevant for our purposes here. The key point is that the function in the sentence has changed based on those endings, all right? So if you see quintum, you'll know he can't be the subject anymore. You'll see that Marcus is in the nominative, has to be the subject. So Marcus non videt quintum. All right, so Marcus does not see Quintus. You know that Quintus is the direct object because of that ending. All right. Here you have speech directly from Quintus. He says, "Quid Marcus puellam pulsat et ridet." Here, I'm hoping by now you can identify the pattern. You can identify that Marcus is your subject because he is still in the nominative form, the regular basic form of his name. Marcus puellam pulsat. Note right here, puellam, the ordinary form, if you simply had the nominative would be puella, right? So ordinarily you'd have puella as your nominative, but you have here puellam as the accusative case. So you know that Marcus is your subject, puellam is going to be your direct object, pulsat's your verb, he hits the girl, and ridet, he laughs. All right. Quintus iratus est. Note right here, est is not a transitive verb. Est is a linking verb, and typically it will link a subject with some sort of adjectival predicate, all right? So Quintus iratus est, here that's exactly what it does. It links Quintus and iratus. Quintus is angry. Note that this is not a direct object. There's no action involved, right? So Quintus is angry et Marcum pulsat. You don't need to repeat the subject Quintus, it's still understood, and he's still in the nominative, so he's going to be your subject, and then you'll see that he Marcum pulsat, you can identify that as your accusative. Yam, remember yam is going to mean something like now or already, so now non ridet Marcus. There's no direct object here, but you'll note that Marcus is going to be your subject because he's in the nominative case. Marcus iratus, here it doesn't say Marcus iratus est, simply Marcus iratus, Marcus, angry, pulsat quintum. Note nominative right here, accusative right here. It doesn't matter if you said iratus Marcus pulsat quintum or quintum pulsat iratus Marcus or quintum iratus Marcus pulsat. All of those would mean the same thing because their endings have stayed the same. All right. Take a little look at the next couple of lines. Julia asks, ubi est mater? Julia aemili am non videt. Here, notice first declension feminine nouns have their nominative in a simple short a. So Julia here is nominative. She's your subject. All right. And then she non videt, does not see aemili am. You could not have a sentence that says Julia aemilia non videt. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't make any sense. You need that to be in the accusative case. So then again, basic form of the sentence is retained. Julia, subject, Amelia am, wokat, she calls Amelia, mater Marcus, right here as you're reading, you'll see Marcus is in the nominative, he's your subject. Quintum pulsat, Marcus punches Quintus, right? Marcus iratus again, Marcus Juli am pulsat again. Here's your subject, Marcus Juli am pulsat. If this said Julia Marcum pulsat, you'd have a different sentence entirely. And then Julia plorat, notice that this is an intransitive verb. Julia plorat, she cries, right? And here you have a transitive verb, wokat, she calls Aemiliam, right? So nominative, she's your subject, Aemiliam, accusative, she's your direct object, right? And then she says, Marcus me pulsat. Here, even though you've never seen the form of me before, you should be able to identify that Marcus is nominative, therefore he's your subject. Pulsat, you'll know, has to be a transitive verb. There's no way to punch and not punch. Well, I guess you could just punch into the air, but ignoring that, Marcus punches, and then here you have me. This is going to be your direct object. So you'll know that me there has to be in the accusative case. And then finally, Amelia venit. Here, venit is an intransitive verb. You do have a nominative. You'll have to have a subject of a sentence. So she's in the nominative. Amelia venit. Amelia comes. Simple sentence, no direct object. All right, hopefully that's clear. If not, ask me in class.